Hello, I'm really happy to start this first Innercraft course of 2022. And our subject today is a very important one from the standpoint of all Buddhist practice, not just Zen. We will talk about the act of what we call taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And with that, taking refuge also is the question of the precepts. When we take refuge as laypersons even, of course, in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we take up some practice of the precepts we have in Rinzai Zen, the 5 lay precepts that we use in common with most of the Buddhist world. So I'd like to talk a bit about those. And then finally, along with that, the Bodhisattva vows, the possibility to express this profound aspiration to enter and to complete the Bodhisattva path for the sake of all beings. To take those vows as part of this initiation or entrance into the path that we call taking refuge. So that is our subject today. I say it's so important because I really would like you to understand that from the standpoint of the Buddhist teaching, it is so incredibly rare to encounter the Dharma, to encounter the teachings which can lead to our liberation. From beginningless time, according to the Buddhist teaching, we have been caught in this wandering we call samsaric existence. There's no beginning to it. There's no discrete moment of creation in Buddhism. There's no point at which it started. Of course, there are universes which begin and end, but even that is an infinite process. We cannot trace the beginning of this cycling within delusion and this being caught within the endless cycle of rebirths that we call samsara. So in all of that endless existence that you and that I and all beings have been enmeshed in, to even hear the word Buddha, to even hear the word Zen in this life represents such an incredibly miraculously good fortune. It's really inconceivable. And more than that, more than the inconceivable good fortune of being born, of taking existence in a time and a place where the Buddhist teachings, the teachings that lead to liberation, have been propagated and exist, but also to have all of the factors that come together such that you have the desire or the interest to explore them or eventually to follow them, that you have a reasonably healthy body and mind allowing you to do so, that you have the basics of food and shelter such that you can give attention to such things. That you have the good fortune to be able to even encounter something like this video. It's just really remarkable. I do not say it's good fortune because I'm the one giving the video, but it's good fortune, again, even to encounter any expression of a Buddha Dharma, even if it's coming through imperfect vessels such as myself. I have that same good fortune also, that I was able to encounter the teachings. So we have to understand that for all of that to come together, and then finally for us to actually have the aspiration, the desire to enter formally into the Buddhist path. Not just to have an academic or intellectual interest in it, but to actually be interested to do it, to bring it to fruition in our own bodies, and to decisively cut the habitual ignorance which has, again, from beginningless time, caused us to be entwined and enmeshed in this endless cycle of rebirth. There's no way to overstate the importance of that moment when you give rise to that kind of intention. The moment that you enter the path is the moment that your endless stream of existences goes suddenly in a different direction, in a lasting manner. Everything is different after that. You may not feel that your life changes dramatically. In fact, I often joke to my students who are interested to take refuge. We have a ceremony. It lasts about 10 minutes. I'm actually going to do that ceremony in this video, or this course, which I'll talk about in a moment. But I tell them, you do the ceremony, it lasts about 10 minutes, you take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, you receive the 5 lay precepts and begin that practice. You can take the Bodhisattva vows. You even get what we call a kaimyo, precept name, or so we say sometimes homyo, Dharma name, marking your entrance into this new life. In other words, you have given up your old life and now you're reborn with even a new name. You do all of that. And then as I say to them, you still have all the same problems. You still have all the same stuff that you have to work with. That's the path of practice. But even though that's the case, that's my joke always that I make, I would like you to understand there is something very profound that changes at the moment you go for refuge. So that is what we'll talk about today. Before I do the first sort of part of this course where I talk about these things, the refuges, the precepts, and I'll touch upon the Bodhisattva vows as well. I should mention that the second half of the course, or the ending of the course, I'm actually going to conduct the ceremony we call Zaike Tokudo, or Jukai. That is the ceremony where a person could formally take refuge and receive the precepts and so on. And what I want to say is you can do so using this video. Okay? There are many things in practice we cannot do virtually. For example, in Rinzai Zen, the practice we call Sanzen, the face-to-face meeting with the teacher, that requires a face-to-face meeting. Teachers and students can communicate with each other, write letters or emails to each other, Zoom with each other. But the formal practice we call Sanzen, often called Dokusan, requires them to be in the same physical space, or I should say the word we use to refer to the field around the teacher, or the field of the teacher and student in which they encounter each other. Ba is a Japanese word we use. I've talked about this quite a bit in the past. For that, we cannot do it in this format. But something like Jukai, or receiving the precepts and taking refuge, while it's preferable to do it in person, and in the future you should, you can do it now. If you have the sincere, again, aspiration, interest, intention to take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, to formally commit to or enter into the Buddhist path, you can do it even on your own. But I would like this course and the ceremony I will conduct to be a chance for you to do it together with me. Even if we're not in the same time and space, this is a recording that you're watching. My intention is reaching towards you. Your intention is reaching towards the Dharma. To me, that is enough. We can say that it's binding. The same goes for the Bodhisattva vows. If you have the arising of what we call Bodhaishin or Bodhicitta in Sanskrit, even in a small way, we always talk about great compassion, but even a small compassion, you have a rising of just the small feeling of wanting to encompass others in your spiritual path, of wanting to give rise to insight, wisdom, to be free, but not just for yourself, so that you can be of aid to others. That moment, that arising of that, what we call Bodhaishin or Bodhicitta, the great or small compassion, which includes others, that also is a tremendously drastic change in the course of your existence. And that's something you can do also on your own, or you can do it with me today in this course. Now, finally, the other part, so we have the 3 refuges, and then we have the Bodhisattva vows I mentioned, but what comes after the 3 refuges, the taking of the 5 lay precepts. Those do really need to be received from someone in person. That's kind of important still. But that being said, you can take them today. You can begin to work with them. You can start to contemplate them, to examine them, to look at your own actions of body, speech, and mind in light of them. You can begin the practice of the 5 lay precepts now. And then later, when you have a chance to receive them in person from someone, you can do that too. So, there are no limitations for these things, really. Again, I will say one more time, it's preferable to do it in person. And I would like to sit across from you face to face one day If you come to Korenji anytime, we can do this refuge ceremony. But for today, I'd like to invite you to do so, and I'll talk more about what's involved with that. So I hope that's clear. That's our plan for this short course. And I'd like to get right into talking about what we're going to do. But before we do that, I'm going to chant for you the 3 refuges in the manner that we do. And I'll tell you the translation, of course. And later on, if you'd like to do so with me, formally take refuge, receive the 5 lead precepts, and recite the Bodhisattva vows in the formal ceremony, you'll be able to do so. Okay, but first, to open this course, I'd like to recite them for you. Namua kie butsu, Namua kie ho, Namua kie so, kie butsu mujo son, kie ho ryoko son, kie so ago son, kie butsu kyo, kie ho kyo, kie so kyo, namu kie butsu, namu kie ho, namu kie so, kie butsu mujo son, kie ho ryoko son, kie so ago son, kie butsu kyo, kie ho kyo, kie so kyo, namu kie butsu, namu kie ho, namu kie so, kie butsu mujo son, kie ho ryoko son, kie so ago son, kie butsu kyo, kie ho kyo, kie so kyo. So what I just chanted, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha, I take refuge in the Buddha, honored above all. I take refuge in the Dharma, honored for its freedom from attachment. I take refuge in the Sangha, honored for its harmony. I have taken refuge in the Buddha. I have taken refuge in the Dharma. I have taken refuge in the Sangha. And that formula I just recited to you, I chanted 3 times. And I've been told that in ancient India to recite something 3 times means it's legally binding. So you find oftentimes that we chant something 3 times in a row. Although in this case, within each recitation, you're taking refuge 3 times. So actually we chanted 9 times. I don't know why that is. But you have plenty of time before it's done to reconsider, to change your mind. If you chant it all the way through 3 times, it means you're pretty sure. So that is the refuge that we will chant together later.